As the years passed, John and Mary continued to enjoy their success, but life was not without its challenges. Though they had wealth, John often felt a strange emptiness. He missed the simplicity of their early days, when they worked side by side on their small farm. One night, while lying in bed, he turned to Mary and said, "Do you ever wish we could go back to the way things were? Just you and me, living a simple life." Mary, who had noticed John's restlessness, smiled gently. "Life has changed, John, but the core of it remains the same, our love. We can still find joy in the little things, even with all we have now. Let's take a break, just the two of us, and go back to the village for a while." The next day, they packed a few belongings and returned to their old village. They rented a small house near the farmland where John had once worked. The village had changed over the years, but the peace and tranquility were still there. The couple spent their days walking through the fields and reminiscing about their journey. One afternoon, as John was exploring the familiar surroundings, he met a young boy named David, who was trying to catch a goat that had escaped from the pen. The boy was frustrated and about to give up, but John approached him and offered help. Together, they caught the goat and brought it back safely. David thanked John, explaining that his family was struggling. They had fallen on hard times, and it was becoming harder to keep the farm running. John felt a tug at his heart, remembering his own past struggles. He decided to visit David's family and see how he could help. When John arrived at David's home, he met the boy's mother, Helen. She explained that her husband had passed away a few years earlier, leaving her to raise David and manage the farm on her own. The farm had been in their family for generations, but without help, it was falling apart. John returned home and told Mary about David's family. "They remind me of us," he said. "They're struggling, but they refuse to give up. I want to help them, just like we were helped in our darkest days." Mary agreed and suggested they invest in the farm, providing not just money but knowledge to help the family get back on their feet. Over the next few months, John and Mary worked closely with Helen and David, teaching them new farming techniques and helping them build a stable business. The farm began to thrive, and soon, other families in the village started to notice the transformation. They, too, came to John and Mary for advice. Before long, John and Mary had unknowingly become leaders in the village, guiding people not just in farming but also in life. They organized community gatherings where villagers could share their challenges and support each other. John felt fulfilled again, not because of wealth but because he was making a difference in people's lives. One day, as John sat with David, teaching him how to manage the crops, the boy asked, "How did you become so successful? Was it all about making money?" John smiled, looking out over the fields. "No, David," he said. "Success isn't just about money. It's about love, hard work, and never giving up. And sometimes, it's about helping others when they need it most." David nodded, listening intently. John continued, "When I lost my sight, I thought everything was over. But Mary didn't give up on me. She showed me that with love, you can overcome anything. Now, it's our turn to pass that love on to others." Meanwhile, back in the city, Mr. Robert, John's former business partner, was facing his own struggles. His business had begun to crumble due to poor decisions and a lack of trust with his employees. Hearing about John's success in helping the village, he decided to visit him, hoping to learn how to rebuild. When Mr. Robert arrived in the village, he was shocked to see the impact John and Mary had made. The once quiet village was now bustling with activity, and everyone seemed to be working together. Mr. Robert found John and asked him for advice on how to save his business. John welcomed Mr. Robert, but instead of giving him business tips, he shared his personal journey. "We built our success on trust, love, and community," John explained. it's not just about profit. If you want your business to survive, you need to build real connections with your people. Make them feel valued, and they'll stand by you. Mr. Robert was humbled by John's words. He realized that his downfall had come from treating his employees as mere tools for profit, rather than as partners in the business. He thanked John and promised to change his ways. As the weeks went by, word of John and Mary's impact spread beyond the village. People from nearby towns began visiting, seeking advice and guidance. John and Mary decided to create a small school, where they could teach farming, business skills, and the importance of community. It became a center of learning and growth for people from all walks of life. Despite the success of the school and the growing attention, John and Mary stayed humble. They focused on the relationships they built and the lives they touched. Their happiness came not from wealth but from the love and support they shared with others. One evening, as John and Mary sat on the porch of their small house in the village, David approached them. He had grown into a strong young man, and his family's farm was flourishing. "I wanted to thank you," David said. "You've changed our lives. I don't know where we'd be without your help." John shook his head. "It wasn't us, David. It was you and your mother. You never gave up, even when things were hard. We just gave you a little push. Now, it's your turn to help others." David nodded, understanding what John meant. He promised to continue the work John and Mary had started, helping others in the village and beyond. He had learned that true success comes from lifting others up, just as John had lifted him. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the fields, John and Mary looked at each other, content. They had come full circle, returning to the simple life they once knew, but with a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. John took Mary's hand and whispered, "We've built something far greater than wealth, Mary. We've built a legacy of love and kindness that will last long after we're gone." Mary smiled, her heart full of pride and happiness. "And it all started with you losing your sight, John. Life has a funny way of guiding us to where we need to be." The couple continued to live in the village, never seeking fame or fortune, but always helping those around them. Their story became a legend, inspiring others to live with love, patience, and kindness, no matter the challenges they faced. In the end, John and Mary realized that while love may be blind, it is also the most powerful force in the world, capable of bringing light even in the darkest times. And that light continued to shine in the hearts of all who knew them. This story shows how love, dedication, and perseverance can overcome even the toughest challenges. Despite John losing his sight, Mary's unwavering love led them through hardships, and together they achieved a life full of happiness and success. Love is blind.